In this very lengthy video, I will be going back in time to my childhood. But before that, we'll begin with a little bit of childhood. This is a very lengthy video. I apologize for that. But if you'd like to know just a little bit more about me, my content, what led up to today, we have to, once again, go back into the past, into my childhood, and go from there. But first, let's have a little bit of fun, enjoy a bit of childhood as we will go from this point back in time to earlier today and begin from there. 11:30 a.m. looking out the bedroom window here. And they've seen me. So it's not like I'm, spying on them or anything. I've waved to them out the window. They're not going to have very much success in accomplishing what they're doing here. Oh, fun stuff. And it is frigidly cold out there, man. But yeah, trying to keep a little bit of an eye on them because, of course, we have the feeding ground right up here. And I tell you what, this is not good weather for parents to be allowing their children to be out and about playing, especially to be out and about playing nearby the feeding grounds, right? Yeah, we got a lot of property around here to where, these kids could actually be playing elsewhere. So whether or not, this has been set up just to instigate, who knows? There we go. Yay! Okay, I guess. I'm not gonna make any kind of a stink out of it. Hell, they're out having fun, so they can handle this. Awesome. But anyways, I've got plans on discussing a little bit about the greater light here, or the sun, which isn't very clear right now, but it is what it is. And they just slid down. Well, yeah, they slid down pretty quick that time. But once again, why is it, why is it always activity surrounding me? Oh, there's other property here. And where do they come? Yeah. But this is kind of a good lead in to what I want to discuss. Once again, kind of pertaining to this greater light. And that is actually how the past actually dictates the future. Stemming from back when I was a child, okay? And how it's led into, well, not only me today, but my content, okay? And we'll go from there. Why not? Let's continue on at 11:40 a.m. this Sunday morning. And, well, I've shown this before. In fact, what I'm going to show you, I've shown bits and pieces in past videos. But yeah, this was me back when I was just a wee little lad. And, of course, you can possibly see why many of my childhood acquaintances referred to me as a little China boy because, yeah, I had quite the slanted eyes when I was a youngster. Um, oh, nice little glitch there. Wow. But where we begin is not during this phase of my life, but a few years later. Okay? And basically, well, about 5 years old. And this is where, this is where it kind of caught me off guard this morning as I went through a lot of the school paperwork that my mom actually saved over many, many, many years. And it's just so amazing yet also ironic how this is coming into play as far as my content and a furthering of, I guess, actualization, self realization, those psychological terms. Um, but, so 5 years old or thereabouts, I guess it was right around 5 years old, kindergarten. You know, we had to learn about ourselves. Okay? One of the first things was learning about ourselves. Me. Okay? And something special. And of course, these are all handwritten schoolwork pages, okay, from the teacher at that time that were ditto copies, basically Xeroxed off. But it has things such as, um, okay, can we think of something that is very special to you? And I put down bike, okay, and describe this special thing. Black striped and has a chain on it. Okay, what would be a good clue for, and then I had to fill in the rest, a gunshot, smoke, and dead people? Well, the reason for that is apparently, just like today, back when I was a kid, I watched a lot of westerns. And I still do today because, well, basically, even though I've got 50 channels to choose from on my TV, and I use antenna TV, so, not cable or otherwise, um, there's not much on that interests me anymore, and I find myself watching a lot of these old westerns, such as Gunsmoke and just a whole plethora of them. Okay, and then draw your special thing. There's my little bicycle, and then you flip it upside down, and please tell me what your specific thing is. And of course, once again, it says bike here. Okay, so let's continue on because what's so special about a bike, right? Well, the thing is the bike ended up into a favorite thing to do, which was to ride a motorcycle, and which I have done so throughout a good majority of my life, even as a child, because my dad, he had his motorcycles and we would ride often. He would take me out for rides, in which I was actually riding on the gas tank of the motorcycle back then, right? And times were a lot different, a lot more fun if you ask me. And then something else, something you would like to be, and I put down here a fish man. No, not a fisherman, but a fish man. Okay, and I could go a little bit more into that, but this is where it really starts to get so strange. Okay, names, names, names. What was a name? What does a name mean to you? Happy. Man, David, are you watching this? Happy Joy Joy? Okay. Because otherwise, happy doesn't have much meaning to me today other than the channel Happy Joy Joy. Kind of strange. Okay. And then it says, can you write your name backwards? Negrom. Well, over the years, I have come to adopt Negrom as basically the name of my dual Gemini personality, Morgan and Negrom. Okay, uh, Negrom not being such a decent guy. All right. Um, okay, so and then of course, do you like your name? And I marked yes. Why? Because it's a name of a horse, the Morgan horse. Okay. Um, and then we have, let's see. Um, I am happy when I hear the name friend. I am sad when I hear the name hate. These are not names, okay? But yet I still got a good thinking out of this. I feel silly when I hear the name clown. I get angry when I hear the name dummy, which the teacher put down, so do I. My dad used to call me dummy all the time. And I'll leave off with that, okay? What would you do? What would you like to do more than anything else? Airplane. Oh, come on, you gotta be kidding me, Morgan. Seriously? Well, a couple of years later, I did have the one and only airplane ride that I can remember in my life. There was one time to where my mom and I flew down to my dad's naval base when he was stationed along the coastline, the east coastline, when he was in the Navy. But I don't remember that. I was but an infant. I've only ridden in one other airplane, and that was a trip that I won through the church. And at 7 years old, I got to ride up in an airplane. Kind of almost like, it was meant to be, right? Oh, what do you hate to do more than anything else? Go to bed. And I spend most of my time in bed these days. What do you like to do alone? Watch TV. Oh, yeah. Um, and then go camping with family, and that continued on for a good many years. Um, Play in the snow. Well, that's not the case so much anymore, but I find myself out in the snow quite often these days. What do you like to do at night? I like to sleep, but yeah, I don't like to go to bed. Okay, what do you like to do in the rain? Fishing. What would you like to do if you had a pet seal? What? And I'm not sure what I did there, but I might have been harpooning the seal. I don't know. What would you do if you had a magic vase? Go inside of it. Okay. Um, okay. Hats. What do you think of when you see the words hats? And I made triangles. Flag. Okay, we'll get to the flag here in just a moment. But throughout my paperwork as a child, the only uh, item that I can find related to the American flag is this right here. Okay? Otherwise, I found this. Okay? Okay? Now, I don't want to go religious with this or anything, but maybe a society symbol. Okay? And and even more so, much like many times in the sky, okay, because X marks the spot, and so on, and so on, and so on. And of course, this is where we're at today, basically, to where I talk a lot about the Freemasons and the Knights Templar, and I'm still learning, but yet so much of it seems so familiar. But hey, let's go ahead and toss that aside and continue on with this real quick. I don't think there's okay. Um, My favorite color is red. That's no longer the case. That is my most despised color, if you will. My favorite, whatever, is happy. Dusty Trails. That goes back to a TV series, and it took me a while to actually remember what this even meant, because back when I received all of this from my mom, and I came across this, is like, what the heck is Dusty Trails? Well, it's a past TV series that starred Bob Denver and Alan Hale, the two main stars of Gilligan's Island, and which this was a western, okay, western parody, if you will. Um, okay, my favorite food is fruit, man. Okay, okay. Sitting in my bedroom. There's a specific reason why I keep bananas in the bedroom. It's because it stays. I keep it cooler in here than the rest of the apartment. Okay, so my favorite job. There we go. My favorite job is getting honey at store. Okay, now there's another reason for that, but honey, I have honey on a daily basis within what I call my rocket fuel morning drink. Okay, it's a big part of my life. And thing is back during this period of time at church, the pastor of our church at that time was a big honey freak himself, and so we would pick up honey as a gift for our pastor. Okay, my favorite book is Under the Sea, and she made sure that because it was a title, that every word to that title was capitalized. That is why I do that format to the titles of my videos today. It all goes back to that right there. Okay? Now then, one of the things that I despise the most is math, but yet it says here my favorite blah 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 in school is, and then I for some reason came up with this. And she even says math? Good. But what do we have here? Well, 2018 minus 1, 2017. Okay? Yeah. My favorite game is cards. And yeah, I love card games, but of course, the tarot or fortune telling cards. When was the last time that you helped someone? October 12th, 1975. So that gives you an approximate date of when this was taking place here, okay? Okay, and then we got teacher, farmer, weatherman, horse, librarian. All of these are relevant to my life. Okay? If I chose to be a professor, and the reason for that once again goes back to Gilligan's Island because of the professor. Uh-huh. And which she's corrected me, and nice try, because I was sounding it out. This was before I could spell worth a lick. Okay? I will have to know how to do science. Okay? And so once again, that just kind of goes in with the professor on Gilligan's Island. That's where all that came about. Yeah, TV junkie. Okay, and then we had this type of stuff here. Okay, yeah, your two best friends were mad at each other. What would you tell them? What would you do? Tell them go home. Okay, on which I'm actually throwing a kick right there into somebody's butt. Get on out of here. Go home. You hurt your mother's feelings. Go away. Okay, you made fun of a friend and made them cry. Buy them some candy, which shows, my little illustration there. This is all, illustrative work that we were to do. What would you do? I'd walk to school. Okay. You found a stray dog, but your mom said no pets. Well, then I'd make a dog pen. And which, yeah, um, back when I was 6 years old, I helped my dad construct a dog pen for the dogs that we had accrued during that period of time. But this was pre-dog pens, okay? Okay, you saw someone breaking the law, tell them not to do it. Well, as long as I live, I shall always be myself and no other, just me. Now let's go on just a little bit more. Now this is where it gets a little bit crazy because just recently and previous recording, I made mention that I care less about space, okay, but this is you know this was homework, school homework here, and the reason being for this, and once again, it is so strange how my mom kept certain things that, of course, plays a significant part in my life today. Very strange. Okay, so space, and right here we have. Oh, before we can even get into space, yeah. Let's go ahead. Well, let's go with this first because I found this quite fascinating because clouds. Now, this is just an example of how times have severely changed because we have here clouds help weathermen forecast weather changes. Clouds are not all alike, but studying the shapes of the clouds and how they are moving, the weatherman can tell many things about the weather. The clouds that we see often are of four kinds. They are either cirrus, stratus, nimbus, or cumulus clouds. Cirrus clouds are sometimes called mare's tails. Okay, what is a mare? Mare, it's a type of a horse. Huh. Okay, so a horse tail. The word cirrus means curl. This is a good name for these thin, white clouds. Huh. Cirrus clouds are always high in the sky. They travel at fast speeds, sometimes as much as 200 miles an hour. These clouds are made of tiny drops of ice. Often they are a sign of rain because they usually mean a change in the weather. Weathermen watch cirrus clouds closely. Sometimes clouds seem to be in long, flat layers. They are stratus clouds. The word stratus means layer. Stratus clouds usually follow cirrus clouds. Sometimes stratus clouds cover the whole sky and make it gray. When weathermen see these clouds, they expect rain or snow. Stratus clouds sometimes change in shape and color. They become dark, rolling, heavy clouds. These kinds of clouds are called nimbus clouds. Nimbus means rain clouds in the sky. They bring heavy rains. Cumulus clouds form a fourth cloud group. Cumulus means pile. Okay, okay, I'll just leave that one alone. These clouds look like big piles or puffs of white cotton. Most cumulus clouds are flat on the bottom and rounded on the top. This kind of cloud usually tells of fair weather. Sometimes cumulus clouds are dark at the bottom. We call these thunderheads. Cumulus clouds often appear after a long rainy period. Okay, so we have four main type of clouds back then. That was it. I mean, and they say main types of clouds, but basically it was just four types of clouds. And well, we also had to learn about weather instruments, which these were the weather instruments of the day. But what we have here is kind of strange, is the numerology. And I'll just leave that at that. Okay. But then we also had to learn about space. Okay. First and foremost, we had to also do our own hand-drawn illustrations here, and these are some the examples of what I drew. All right. And okay, Now, now this is supposed to be the rotation or movement of the moon, okay? And then this is the movement of the Earth around this nice colorful sun. Orange. Back then it was either, when looked at, yellow or orange when you would view it. And not this white thing that we see today. And by the way, before I go any further, these were also graded. Okay, so I got a B on a scale of A, B, C, D, or F, I guess. I got a B for that drawing. For this drawing here, a B plus. And then we had to do one of the solar system. And once again, the coloration here, okay? And, well, we can see all these different planets, and which also back then included Pluto as a planet, but no longer, right? And on this one here, I got an A+. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so where is space? Right here. And, okay, this was done on September 21st, 1977. I was a few years older at this given point in time when this was being done, okay? And which, well, where is space? Well, this is the space age, ergo, the reason why we were mandated to do assignments in regards to space, okay? Because this is the space age. It had only just begun publicly, if you will, a few years earlier with the 1969 moon landing, right? So this is the space age. We hear about it on the radio and television. We read about it in magazines and newspapers. We play space games. But where is space? When we are out outdoors looking up at blue sky, what do we see? Clouds are floating by, birds are flying, airplanes are zooming along. Are we looking at things in space? Where are the clouds, the birds, and the airplanes? They are in part of the Earth that is called the atmosphere. So to understand where space is, we must first become acquainted with our atmosphere. How high is this atmosphere? The part we can see as we look up from our solid Earth is the troposphere. This is the part that gives us the oxygen we breathe. Okay? The birds and airplanes can ride on it, and the clouds and weather are formed in it. The troposphere, or troposphere, however you want to pronounce it, is only about 7 miles deep. We can travel higher in the atmosphere by getting into a stratoliner. Yeah. As we leave the troposphere, we reach the stratosphere, which is from about 7 miles to about 20 miles deep. Here, the air is thinner, but there are no storms. The air is quiet. Manned balloons have explored the upper part of the stratosphere. The chemisphere. Chemisphere is the next layer. Chemisphere. I can't get over that one. This part of the atmosphere is about 30 or 40 miles above the Earth's surface and is a very thin layer. You would not be able to travel in it unless you had very special equipment. Beyond that is the ionosphere. Now notice that is such a wow, not much of a definition there or description. But anyways, beyond that is the ionosphere. This is the part of the atmosphere where the northern lights get their start and the meteors burn up. It is about 200 miles deep. Then comes the thinnest part of all, called the exosphere. The layers of which it doesn't state anything significant about the exosphere, okay? The layers of our atmosphere are almost like the chapters in a book. One follows the other and each has a story to tell. We have read some of these chapters. Others are still mysteries to us. The man-made satellites orbiting the Earth will help us make these chapters clear to us. Here are the names of the chapters: troposphere, stratosphere, chemisphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. And what is beyond? Space. And then we go into what is space, all right? And hold on. Okay, and I believe this is where we're going to be getting close to ending this. So what is space? Okay, and we got illustration of the sun's rays coming on down, and yeah, it looks more like a beam, doesn't it? Okay. If we could leave our Earth and its atmosphere and venture into space, what would we see? The lovely blue sky would disappear. Instead, everything would be black. Millions of stars would be visible to us, but they would not seem to twinkle as they do from Earth. Our sun would look like a big glowing ball of white light. Okay, and if you Google what color is our sun from space, it will say that is absolutely white. Okay, so right there you have to question, okay, why is it that they always show our sun as being orange within all of these NASA images and so on and so forth? Is it just because, well, orange was a pleasing filter to use, or what? Okay, it's just one of the questions that's come to my mind. Okay, but yet today, much like I was stating about when I was a child, and the coloration that we would observe back then being basically yellow throughout the day for the most part, yellow throughout the day, and orange on during sunrise and sunset. Okay, so our sun would look like a big glowing ball of white light surrounded by its beautiful crown or corona. There would be no wind. Everything would seem dark and empty. And it is, for what is space, it is just nothing. Nothing at all. Okay? Why is space black? Why do the stars not twinkle? Why is it dark if the sun is a big glowing ball? Why is there no wind? Okay, let us see if we can answer these questions. To understand why space is black, we must know what color is. Okay? Color is a kind of light. The reason we see color is because it is being reflected or thrown back to our eyes, but there must be something to reflect that color. On the Earth, we know the atmosphere is reflecting or scattering the sun's light, so we have light and color. The sky looks blue to us from Earth because the air is reflecting more blue to our eyes than many other color. In space, there is nothing to reflect the sun's light, so all is black. Okay, so when you're getting that right there, what about the picture of the big blue marble? That was supposedly taken from space, right? So if you're out in space and there's no colorations, because everything is showing up white amongst the black, where'd the big blue ball or marble come into play? Huh. And of course, the only, still the only image supposedly of the Earth in its entirety, right? But what if we could see the stars if they were in space? Why would they not twinkle as they seem to twinkle from the Earth? What makes the stars twinkle? As the light coming from the stars travels through the Earth's atmosphere, it is bent back and forth by the cold and warm air. This movement we call twinkling. It is really the bending of light. In space, there is no air to bend the light, so stars could not seem to twinkle. The sun would appear as a big glowing ball in space. Why? You know the answer. There would be no air to scatter or reflect its light. Okay, so right there, once again, how do we have this image of a big blue marble? Right? Why would there be no wind? Wind is moving air in space. There is no air to move about, so there could be no wind. So if we would travel into outer space, we would see no color or light. We would feel no wind. Only beautiful shining stars and a brilliant sun would appear in the quiet, dark emptiness. Okay, so that got me really contemplating a lot about the sun. Okay, and then we had the early ideas about space, the beginning of modern ideas about space, and I want to go. I'd like to go into that, um, but this is the programming that still followed me into these times, if you will. My whole life, this has followed me to where I began posting content. Okay? So, yes, this is, all evidence of how much the past really influences the future. Okay? And shows how things evolve, right? Which is evolution. And all you have to do is throw an R in front of evolve, and it becomes revolve. And the same with evolution, becomes revolutions or revolution. And I'm not talking about, an uprising, a protest or whatever. No, I'm talking about, spinning or cycles or looping, such as within a possible time loop theory scenario. Because after all, it does seem like when you really come down to a lot of belief systems that there is such a thing as a time loop of existence. And that is where we come in full circle once again to going back to my theory of a time loop. But I still have to stick with my theory. So that's where we'll end it. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have yourselves a great one.